All right, now back to what is our breaking and lead story today, and that is the executive order, an immigration executive order that came down a week ago and effectively today at this hour being reversed. And then the responses that have come down from President Trump calling the current federal judge out of Seattle who made that determination yesterday, President Trump calling him a so-called judge, also calling the decision by that judge as ridiculous. Joining us now by phone is Vermont Democratic Senator Patrick Leahy. Senator, thanks for stopping by today. You feel very strongly about the comments that have come from President Trump. What's your thought?
Well, they're amazing. I cannot imagine comments like that from any president of either party. He seems to like to go after federal judges. As you remember, when one federal judge dared question some of his questionable business activities, he said, well, his ancestors were from Mexico, so he's not qualified. He says the same thing. First, they said outrageous on this judge, and then withdrew that word. But he questions the judge. This judge, incidentally, was somebody nominated by a Republican president. He was confirmed in a Republican-controlled Senate, 99-0. And basically, he's saying, if you step outside the Constitution, then there are checks and balances. President Trump seems to think that only he can state what the law is, only he can state what's going to be done, and once he states it, everybody has to fall in line. Well, that's not the way this country is designed.
As you think about the comments that come from President Trump and you look towards the confirmation of the next Supreme Court justice, the question has been asked, how would anybody answer the question, so what would you say to President Trump's use of language about another judge, a federal judge appointed by a Republican president, George W. Bush, when he's using such language? What do you expect to hear in these confirmation hearings?
Well, I intend to ask a question along that lines. If you have a president who's going to bully and disparage a federal judge, what do other federal judges say about it? You know, the irony is, and I've listened to comments, for example, by Jeff Sessions and those around him. Jeff Sessions, when Sally Yates was before the committee for confirmation as Deputy Attorney General, he asked her under oath, demanded that she say she would stand up to a president if she thought the president was wrong. She gave the only answer that an Attorney General or Deputy Attorney General could give, and that is yes, if the president was wrong, I'd have to say so. Well, then they were all in high dudgeon when she did exactly that on President Trump's immigration order, which has now been eviscerated by federal courts. She stood up and said, no, it's wrong, as most lawyers knew it was wrong. And now they're, oh my gosh, fire her. Well, what they're saying is, we don't want to follow the rule of law. We want to follow the rule of Trump. Hopefully that will change.
The response from President Trump is he is merely trying to keep the United States safe, and that such executive orders are needed. Do you agree with that essence?
Excuse me. Having an executive order which says basically we're against Muslims coming into this country, that doesn't keep us safe. All that does is give ISIS a recruiting tool.
If it is a recruiting tool, how might the U.S. government then respond to that? As we have seen some reports and news headlines of ISIS celebrating such moves by this administration and using it as a recruiting tool. How effective do you think this might be?
Well, I think it will be effective, but it also ignores the fact that we have extraordinarily tough vetting in this country. I mean, these people go through 3, 4, 5 levels of vetting. Most of us would have a difficult time going through that. I would hate to think any one of us would have to go through that. We would eventually get through it, but it could take us a year or two.
Senator, you've probably watched over the last week alone, and we could go increase that sort of time span, but just this week alone, the number of people taking to foot, going to the streets, going to airports, showing up in town halls. What do you make of that? What does that say about what Americans are thinking and may do come 2018?
Well, I don't know if they'll do it 2018. I know what I'd like to have them do, but
I bet, yes.
it shows the frustration. I was born in Montpelier, Vermont. It's our capital. It has only 8,500 people. 15,000 people were on our State House lawn the day after the inaugural. Now, you know the hundreds and hundreds of thousands who showed up to march in Washington. Our daughter, our granddaughter, marched there. My wife and I did. A very peaceful march, but I talked with hundreds of these people, both the Vermonters and others who were there, and they're saying, are our rights going to be taken away? No matter what rights we're talking about. And these are both Republicans and Democrats that I talked with.
Thank you so much, Senator Patrick Leahy, for giving us a call today and stopping by at 3:38 Eastern Time as we're looking at, again, the protests and marches across the country and your response. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. You too.
All right.